What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today I have an important video to show you guys. I'm going to show you the commissioner of the Social Security Administration, so Ms. Kijakazi. She's going to be talking about the overpayments. Okay, so I posted a video a couple of weeks ago talking about the fact that the Social Security Administration, for years, they've been overpaying people, and now they're requesting that money back. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. I learned a lot just from watching this whole hearing. The hearing's about 2 hours long. I'm breaking this little piece up. This is only going to be about a 5-minute piece. And so we'll watch the clip, and then we're going to go into depth. We're going to look at the illustration that she provided. We're going to look at that. And this is the major problem behind Social Security and Social Security Administration. This is what they're faced with, and this is the reason why we're seeing some of these issues. And then I'm going to give my opinion on what I think needs to happen when it comes to the Social Security Administration moving forward. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here, so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. And just a reminder, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter and Threads, you can at the TEC Show Live. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right over to the hearing. Now, this hearing was last week, and this is the Subcommittee on Social Security, okay? The House Ways and Means Committee, Subcommittee on Social Security. Here we go.
For your remarks. Doctor, you may begin.
Thank you for inviting us, SSA, to participate in this hearing. I am Kilolo Kijakazi, Acting Commissioner of the Social Security Administration, or SSA. I have not testified or provided interviews for the media during my tenure because I have been laser focused on the work of successfully resuming walk-in traffic in our local offices after the pandemic. We had lines in less than 5% of our 1,230 offices, even at the peak of demand. I also focused on the crisis that SSA faced after years of inadequate funding that led to the agency's lowest level of staffing in 25 years. And I focused on conducting a hiring surge with the increase in funds we received in FY 2023. This resulted in the onboarding of 7,800 new employees for a net gain of 3,200 employees. And this brought our total number of employees up to nearly 60,000 by the end of the fiscal year 2023. Both the pandemic and the staffing shortage contributed to the subject of this hearing, overpayments. Therefore, I wanted to be here to address this issue. During the balance of my time, I will address 3 points. First, SSA's employees work assiduously to pay the right person the right amount at the right time, and as a result, we have achieved low overpayment rates. Next, I will walk through the overpayment process, and lastly, I will discuss SSA's commitment to continuous improvement. SSA pays approximately $1.4 trillion in benefits to more than 71 million people each year. Our overpayment rates are low, about 0.5% for Social Security and about 8% for Supplemental Security Income, or SSI. Overpayments can occur given the large number of people we serve, the frequent changes in their circumstances, and the statutory complexity of the programs. And our staffing shortages absolutely contribute to overpayments. Last year, we had the lowest level of staffing in 25 years. At the same time, we had the highest number of beneficiaries ever. If we could show the chart on the monitors or here, yes. The blue line represents the precipitous decline in staffing over the last several years, and the red line shows the increase in beneficiaries as baby boomers retire or become disabled. SSA cannot continue to do more with less. To achieve the high-quality service that our beneficiaries deserve, we need sufficient, sustained funding from Congress. We have not had that for the better part of the last decade. The current continuing resolution through November 17th returned us to a full freeze on our hiring and our overtime. until we have our annual FY 2024 funding. Next, I will discuss the overpayment process. If we determine that a beneficiary has been paid more than they should have received, we are required by law to seek recovery of the overpayment amounts. First, we issue a notice to the beneficiary to explain that they were overpaid, the reason for the overpayment, and the amount. The notice generally requests a full and immediate refund and describes a proposed rate of benefit withholding. However, the notice to SSI beneficiaries indicates that they can repay the amount that they can afford monthly. The notice also explains the right to request and appeal a waiver or a different rate of withholding. I understand that receiving an overpayment notice can be distressing for beneficiaries. We seek to balance compassion with our statutory obligation to seek recovery and carefully review Social Security trust funds. I am running over, so I will answer questions, but in closing, I want to share that I have been concerned by the widespread misunderstanding of the overpayments process and how this misunderstanding has influenced the public discourse. It is critical that in the public's trust, we be factual when discussing challenges facing SSA. I appreciate your support for our agency's important work serving your constituents, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Okay, so that was Dr. Kijakazi, and you saw her, and she brought up that chart, which we're going to go back to in a second. But when it comes down to it, the Social Security Administration, they have been underfunded for years, and that is having an impact. Okay, now I'm not using that as an excuse. I think you need to be, when it comes to these overpayments, you need, Social Security Administration employees need to be on this. We shouldn't be seeing these overpayments occurring for a long period of time. I can understand it if it's 1 or 2 months, and especially when it comes to SSI, because SSI, you have to self-report, and so they might not catch it right away. So I understand that, but waiting years and years, we're talking 5 years, 10 years, and then saying, okay, guess what? You owe thousands and thousands of dollars. That's a whole different story. That's something that should never happen. So let's go back to this chart, because I do want to take a look at what she was talking about here. Now, when it comes to employees, so when you're looking at this blue line, this is in the thousands. When it comes to beneficiaries, this is in the millions. Okay, so that's why you see it up here at about 75 million. And then when you see the peak right now, this is 60,437 employees with the Social Security Administration currently. And so let's look at this gap, because this is what she's focused on. She's focused on this gap here. So you have more beneficiaries, and then you have less employees. And in 2022, it dropped way down here, okay? And so that is the major problem. You have a shrinking workforce. Up until this year, they were able to hire, what did she say, 7,000. So now they're pushing back up, but you still have work to do when it comes to getting the way it should look, in my opinion, is we should see this steadily rising with the beneficiaries rising. So you have more beneficiaries, you should have this rising up a little bit higher than what it's been in the past. And so in my opinion, that's what we should see. We should see a steady rise in employees with the Social Security Administration. But we didn't see that back in 2022. We actually saw the opposite. We saw a huge decrease. And some of this was coming from the fact that we were getting people back to work at that time, and there were a lot of jobs available. And the Social Security Administration, they were struggling to hold on to their workforce because you had people leaving. So not only did they not get the money that they needed to run the Social Security Administration, but you also had people leaving and going to different other companies, private companies, or other government agencies because the money was better. And so, and they talked about that. And that was one of the reasons why we had these long wait times and things like that, because the Social Security Administration employees, they were saying, you know, I can go somewhere else and make more money. And then we had the whole remote work and things like that. So there was more flexibility in some of these other jobs. And so people from the Social Security Administration, they were leaving. And that has had a major impact on the service that the Social Security Administration can provide. So looking forward, what do I think needs to happen? So when we're looking at this chart, like I said, this should be rising with the beneficiaries rising. So as that rises, this should be rising as well. And I think the good news when it comes to this, and I know there's a lot of bad news out there when it comes to the overpayments. And I totally agree. When it comes to overpayments, I stated already, if we're talking years, that should never happen. They should be able to catch that a lot faster. And they have a new method, and they talked about this during the hearing, where they can catch it much faster, but they haven't implemented that. So once they implement that, then hopefully that won't be an issue anymore as far as years and years. Like I said, if it's a couple of months, I can understand that. And that's not going to impact people that much if it's a couple months where they overpaid you maybe $50 or $100. But if it's a situation where it's in the thousands, obviously people can't just come up with $1,000 to repay the overpayment. And so going forward, what needs to happen is they need to fund Social Security adequately. And if they're not funding them adequately, then we're going to see these type of issues. And I think the good news out of this whole hearing is that it gave these politicians, these lawmakers, it gave them an opportunity to see what's going on when it comes to the Social Security Administration. And you can't argue this graph that I showed you, because it shows you the decline in employees as well as the increase in beneficiaries. And so any future talks of cutting Social Security, it should be a non-starter because of this situation right here. And you had both Democrats and Republicans upset at the fact that these overpayments were happening, and the fact that their constituents were going to them, because that's what happens. When they get these letters and things like that, they're going to go to their congressperson and say, hey, what's going on? I can't pay this back. And so now the Congress people are getting involved in this, and they're saying, yeah, that this shouldn't happen. And so hopefully the lawmakers that are saying we need to cut across the board, all the different agencies, maybe they'll look at this and say, okay, well, we can't afford to cut Social Security, because you don't want to be on the side of cutting Social Security and then these overpayments and the problems with Social Security, the problems with the services that they provide. If we see a decline in that, and then we find out that you cut Social Security, that's going to impact your chance of being reelected because you're making cuts to Social Security. And then one more thing, you heard the commissioner talk about they are bound by law to collect this money. So one way of changing things, and this is what we'll have to see if Congress does this in the future, but one way of changing this problem is not only funding the Social Security Administration, but also wiping out that debt, because Congress can do that. Congress can change the law to say, look, we're going to wipe out the debt. They're not going to have to pay this. And so we'll have to see if these Congress people stick to their word, because a lot of them were upset at the fact that their constituents had to repay this money. And so you can change that by wiping out that debt. And then maybe do a one-time thing where they wipe out the debt, they start new again, they fund the Social Security Administration, and then make sure that they're using the latest technology so they can catch this stuff before it gets out of hand. And to be honest with you, when it comes to this commissioner, she's not responsible for things that happened 10, 15 years ago. But we're finding out 10, 15 years ago, people have been overpaid for 10, 15 years, and now they owe $30,000 or $100,000. And that's what we really need to be looking at. How could that have gone on for so long and no one caught it until now? And so those are the two things that Congress can do. They can fully fund the Social Security Administration, and then also wipe out this debt. But it's not going to come from the Social Security Administration. The commissioner can't wipe out all the debt. Now, she said that they would work with people, and there are certain situations where they can wipe out debt for an individual, but across the board, they can't do that. Congress would have to come in and vote to wipe out the debt. So let me know what you guys think down below. I'll post another video tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell notification, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.